A lion doesn't lose sleep over the opinions of sheep. You weren't built to fit in. You weren't coded to conform. While the world herds itself into echo chambers of validation, you're walking solo, choosing silence over noise, purpose over popularity. That's the Sigma path. You don't broadcast your value. You let the world feel your absence when you leave. This video isn't for everyone. It's not for the ones chasing clout or crying out for attention. It's for the rare breed, the Sigmas, the ones who know their worth, walk their own terrain, and don't blink when the crowd stares. You've been misunderstood, misread, and mislabeled. Today, that ends. Today, I'm decoding why everyone wants access to your world, but not everyone gets a key, and why that makes you powerful. Ascenders, if you're ready to break the algorithm of normal, hit that subscribe button, because on this channel, we don't climb, we ascend. 1. The Black Mirror Effect. When someone looks at you, they're not just seeing you, they're seeing themselves reflected back. But here's the twist. You don't reflect their strengths. You reflect their weaknesses, their confusion, their codependency, and that's uncomfortable. You operate like a mirror they weren't prepared to look into. You're calm when they panic, detached when they obsess, self-directed when they seek permission. And in that contrast, their insecurities scream. They feel exposed, not by what you say, but by how you carry yourself. This effect isn't something you aim for. It's not part of a grand scheme. It's just how Sigma energy works. You highlight the chaos in others simply by existing outside of it. And people react in strange ways. Some are drawn to you like moths to a flame. Others try to tear you down just to stop the discomfort they feel when you're around. But here's the truth. Mirrors don't cause the distortion, they just reveal it. 2. Scarcity isn't strategy, it's DNA. A lot of people play hard to get. They delay texts, avoid calls, set fake boundaries, all in a game to seem valuable. But Sigma males don't play. They are scarce. And it's not about manipulation. It's embedded in their wiring. You don't engage with everyone. You don't offer your time like it's candy. That energy of reservation, of distance, it's not a front. It's who you are, and people feel it. Deep down, they recognize the difference between fake exclusivity and genuine inaccessibility. Your scarcity creates a natural gravity. When you walk away, the space you leave behind feels heavy. When you stay silent, the absence of your voice echoes louder than someone shouting. That's real power. That's why people chase, wonder, and spiral around your presence. You're not trying to create demand. You're just not available for anything that lacks depth. And the world isn't used to that. 3. The phantom presence. You could be gone for months. No updates, no stories, no check-ins. But the moment you walk back into the room, digitally or physically, people notice. Not because you forced your return, but because your absence was felt. You don't have to make noise to make impact. That's the phantom presence. You operate in a realm of silent influence. Your energy doesn't announce itself. It seeps in, stays. And when you leave, people remember, not what you said, but how they felt. That kind of presence isn't made overnight. It comes from living with intention, from knowing when to engage and when to vanish. You understand the power of subtraction, that pulling away creates more clarity than constant noise. Phantom presence is your signature, and no one can fake it. 4. Emotional encryption. You feel things deeply, but the world doesn't get access to that emotional data. Not because you're cold, but because you're secure. You've encrypted your emotional world, not to block people out, but to protect your core. Most people leak emotion. They overshare, overpost, and overexpose. They wear their feelings like flashing signs. You keep it internal, controlled, decoded only by those who've earned the key. That makes people obsessed, curious. They want to understand what you're thinking, how you're feeling, because it's not immediately obvious. You don't owe vulnerability to strangers. You don't let emotions run wild across the table. When you do open up, It lands with power because it's rare, because it's earned. That encrypted energy, it's not about hiding, it's about sovereignty. 5. The quiet catalyst. You're not the loudest in the room, but you're the one shifting its energy. You don't raise your voice, you raise your standard, and when you walk in, the air changes. That's not charisma, that's calibration. People feel the tension between who they pretend to be and who you actually are. You don't ask for attention, you just command it, without even trying. Your silence is weightier than most people's noise. It's not that you lack opinions, you just know that timing is more important than volume. You speak when it counts. You strike when it's aligned. The quiet catalyst doesn't push others to change with speeches or slogans. He forces transformation just by existing. You become the contrast people didn't know they needed, the silent reminder of how far they've drifted from authenticity. And here's the kicker, most people resist that kind of influence. They'd rather avoid you than admit they need to evolve. But the brave ones, they rise, they shift, they recalibrate their lives after encountering your silence. You don't spark revolutions, you spark realignments, quietly, powerfully, permanently. 6. The rule of rejection. You don't chase, you choose. That flips the entire game. While the world is out here desperate to be liked, to be followed, to be accepted, you move like someone who already knows his worth. You're not waiting for a seat at the table. You are the table. Rejection, for you, isn't something to fear. It's a tool. It's a filter. You use it to shape your environment, curate your relationships, and protect your mental bandwidth. You don't engage just because someone wants your time. You don't say yes to preserve feelings. You say no to preserve energy. And people aren't used to that. They're used to being tolerated, entertained, entered into every conversation out of politeness. But with you, there are standards, and that cuts deep. The rule of rejection is your armor. It guards your frequency. It protects your trajectory, and over time, it does something else. It builds mystery, because the less you accept, the more people want to be accepted by you. That kind of rejection doesn't alienate, it elevates. 7. No tribe, no ties. You don't need a tribe to feel powerful. You don't gather a circle to validate your strength. While most people require the noise of a crowd to feel safe, you find clarity in solitude. That's where your edge sharpens. That's where your strategy brews. Sigmas don't need followers. They don't need fan clubs. They walk alone, not out of bitterness, but out of precision. You don't align just for community. You align for resonance. If someone's vibe is off, even by a few degrees, you step back. No explanation needed. The beauty of this independence, it confuses people. It challenges their entire belief system. Society says strength is found in numbers, but your existence proves otherwise. You show that solitude isn't isolation, it's elevation, it's focus, it's creative oxygen. No tribe, no problem, because you've already formed an alliance with something deeper, your own mission. And that's the kind of energy no pack can match. 8. Charisma without performance. You don't perform for approval. You don't fake energy to win attention. Your charisma isn't the result of flashy moves or slick talk. It's an extension of your alignment. The way you carry yourself, the way you observe before you speak, the way you move with intention, it all sends a signal. I know who I am. And that signal, it travels further than volume. People are used to charisma that's built on performance, jokes, bravado, constant motion. But when they meet you, the script flips. You don't try to be charming. You're just present, calm, focused, undistracted. And that calmness? It's rare. It's unsettling. It's magnetic. They wonder, why does he not care about being liked? Because you're not in it for applause. You're in it for truth. You don't need a stage to have presence. You don't need validation to feel solid. Your energy doesn't beg, it invites. This type of charisma, It makes people talk about you when you leave. It makes them curious. It keeps them thinking. Because it wasn't noise, it was realness. And in today's culture of constant performance, your stillness becomes the loudest thing in the room. 9. Identity without apology. You don't edit yourself for comfort. You don't shrink your thoughts to keep the peace. You walk with your truth, and you don't soften the edges to be digestible. That makes people uncomfortable, and that's exactly the point. Most of society survives off approval. They become shapeshifters, adapting their identity based on who's watching. But you move like a signal, not a receiver. You broadcast who you are, unapologetically, and whoever resonates, stays. Whoever doesn't, fades. Simple. You've learned something most people haven't. Truth repels the wrong and attracts the aligned. When you move in your truth, you filter without effort. You don't need to argue, convince, or explain. Your identity becomes its own security system. People crave that level of freedom, but they're scared to live it. They watch you, wondering how you can be so firm in your stance, so direct in your energy. It's not ego, it's clarity. And clarity, in a world addicted to confusion, is revolutionary. 10. The paradox of access. Here's what really flips the game. People want you more when you're less available. But not because you're playing games. It's because your access means something. You don't let people in casually. You don't hand out your presence like samples. You make people earn it. That doesn't make you arrogant. It makes you intentional. When someone interacts with you, they feel the difference. There's weight to your attention, depth to your words. You're not just another notification. They can sense that being in your orbit requires emotional and mental bandwidth. It's not passive, it's a privilege. And the more they realize that, the more they crave it. Because in a world where everyone's accessible 24/7, your boundaries become luxury. Here's the paradox. The less you give freely, the more value you carry. Not because you're holding out, but because your energy isn't designed to be consumed. It's designed to be respected, and those who get that, they never forget it. 11th, intellectual gravity. You don't need to flex. You don't chase status through credentials, trends, or titles. Your sharpness comes from lived experience and relentless observation. When you speak, it's not to show off, it's to shift perspective. This intellectual gravity isn't loud. It doesn't need to be. It shows up when you drop one sentence that rewires someone's thinking. When you ask a question that stops the conversation cold. You're not interested in debates. You're interested in depth. People notice that quickly. They realize you don't throw out empty opinions. You speak when it's necessary, and when you do, there's weight to your words. That weight is earned by reading the room, reading yourself, and reading the world with laser precision. It's not about IQ. It's not about being the smartest in the room. It's about being the most dialed in. You're not distracted by noise. You're tuned into the signal. And that kind of focus, it cuts through every layer of small talk, fake wisdom, and surface-level insight. That's why when you speak, people lean in. Because they know you're not here to impress. You're here to impact. 12th, emotional self-governance. You've mastered something most people never even attempt: emotional self-rule. You don't react, you respond. You don't escalate, you observe. And in a world of emotional outbursts and impulsive drama, that calmness is both rare and intimidating. Here's the thing: most people are emotionally outsourced. They let situations, people, and opinions dictate how they feel. But you own your internal world. You know that real power isn't about controlling others, it's about controlling yourself. That self-governance isn't robotic, it's precise. You feel, but you filter. You care, but you're careful where you invest. You don't suppress emotions, you audit them. That's what separates you from the noise. Emotional discipline. People will call it cold, distant, detached, but it's none of that. It's you refusing to hand your peace over to things you can't control. It's the kind of self-mastery that demands respect, even from those who don't understand it. You don't let chaos shape your state. You move through it like water, fluid, but never out of control. 13. The internal throne. You don't sit on a throne that others built. You built your own, and you did it within. That's what makes you different. You don't chase crowns. You don't wait for titles. You move like someone who already owns his kingdom, and that kingdom is internal. Most people look outside for power. They want recognition, hierarchy, authority. But Sigmas flip that whole structure. You start with yourself. You master your mind, your emotions, your energy. And once that's locked in, the world outside bends to it. The internal throne means you don't need the spotlight to shine. You don't need praise to feel valuable. You're not driven by status. You're driven by alignment. That's what really shakes people. You don't lead because you asked to. You lead because your presence makes others reconsider their own direction. And that's power without politics. Influence without noise. You are your own empire. No crown, no parade, just command. Ascenders, remember this. You are not for everyone, and that's not a weakness. It's your weapon. You weren't made to be popular, predictable, or palatable. You were made to walk your own path with your head high and your energy clean. Every day, the world tries to pull you into its noise, its trends, its traps. But the Sigma doesn't flinch. He listens to something deeper, something internal, and that compass, it never lies. So walk sharp, reject the distractions, move with intention, speak with impact, and most of all, protect your frequency, because not everyone deserves access to your world, and not everyone could handle it even if they got in. We're not here to impress, we're here to ascend. Until next time, stay rare, stay ruthless, and stay real. Subscribe if you haven't yet. This isn't a channel, it's a signal.